Hello, 6th graders. Welcome to Big Ideas Math, Section 6.5, Reflecting Points in the Coordinate Plane, Extension. Pause while you write Section 6.5 Extension in your math notebook. Pause again while you write today's extension objective in your math notebook. Today's objective is plot ordered pairs that are reflections of each other. Write the following key idea into your math notebook. Reflecting a point in the coordinate plane. To reflect a point in the x-axis, use the same x-coordinate and take the opposite of the y-coordinate. To reflect a point in the y-axis, use the same y-coordinate and take the opposite of the x-coordinate. We're starting today on page 282 in your math textbook. At the top of the page, there's some information about reflecting points. You need to pay attention to this and take notes, write down things that are important to you, things that you might need to highlight. You can reflect a point in the x-axis, in the y-axis, or in both axes. Looking at the diagram to your right, at the coordinate plane to your right, the red points are mirror images of each other in the x-axis because the x-coordinates are the same and the y-coordinates are opposites. So the red points are 3 units from the x-axis in opposite directions. The red points represent a reflection in the x-axis. The blue points are mirror images of each other in the y-axis because the y-coordinates are the same and the x-coordinates are opposites. So the blue points are 4 units from the y-axis in opposite directions. The blue points represent a reflection in the y-axis. So when we say a reflection in the x-axis, it means the x-axis is acting like a mirror, and that's what it's reflected in. When we say a reflection in the y-axis, then the y-axis is acting like the mirror, and that's what it's reflected in. Example 1, reflecting points in one axis. Letter A, reflect -2, 4 in the x-axis. Our first job is to plot -2, 4. So remembering from the last lesson, we go horizontally first, so we go to -2, and then we go vertically up to +4. So that point is plotted at -2, 4. And then to reflect -2, 4 in the x-axis, we use the same x-coordinate. And that's -2. And then we take the opposite of the y-coordinate. So the opposite of 4 is -4. So that gives us a -2, -4. When we look at letter B, we're reflecting -3, -1 in the y-axis. So again, we plot -3, -1. And to reflect it in the y-axis is acting as the mirror, so we use the same y-coordinate. So our -1 stays the same, and we take the opposite of the x-coordinate. The opposite of -3 is 3, so the reflection of -3, -1 in the y-axis is +3, -1. Moving on to example 2, we'll be reflecting a point in both axes. So reflect 2, 1 in the x-axis followed by the y-axis. So our first step is to plot the point. So we're going to plot 2, 1, and then reflect it in the x-axis. So we use the same x-coordinate, 2, and take the opposite of the y-coordinate. The opposite of 1 is -1, so we plot that. So the point 2, 1 reflected in the x-axis is 2, -1. And step 3, we reflect to -1 in the y-axis. So we use the same y-coordinate, which is -1, and take the opposite of the x-coordinate. So the opposite of 2 is -2. So the point 2, -1 reflected in the y-axis is -2, -1, right there. Let's look at the common error. It says when reflecting a second time, be sure to use the reflected point and not the original point. So be careful with that. So the second time you go to reflect, so down here in step 3, when you go to reflect, you use the point that you reflected, not the original point. Otherwise, you would end up with your second reflected point up here in the second quadrant. Your assignment for this lesson is to complete the practice problems 1 through 4 and 9 through 10 below. They're also on page 283 of your textbook. Be sure to show your work and be prepared to share during our next class. Please remember, to earn credit for viewing this flipped lesson, you must complete your exit slip, come to our next class prepared with the journal pages or other work from the flipped lesson completed, and be prepared with any work that was assigned in the flipped lesson completed. Be prepared with any questions you have for the teacher, and always have a good attitude. We'll see you next time in class.